All right, everybody, let's have a conversation. There's one hire that the LA Chargers need to get right. There's one hire out of all the rest. We know Jim Harbaugh is good, but there's one very important position, and that is offensive coordinator. And we're going to talk about how they did get it right, and I'm going to back it up, not just with opinions, but with stats. Now, if you're new to the channel, this is not our first channel. We have a couple other ones. Sports Talk Detroit is where it all started. As you can see, we're Lions fans. Then we started Sports Talk Extra. And then Jim Harbaugh got hired by the Chargers. You see the Michigan helmet. And we knew we had to follow this. We understand as Lions fans kind of what your franchise has been through. And so we get that side of it. So here's what I want to look at. The Chargers hired Greg Roman as its offensive coordinator. Now, if you believe the national narrative, the belief is that Greg Roman was no longer an effective play caller with the Ravens. And so they switched over to Todd Monken, and then the Ravens offense just went nuts this year. Like it was the greatest offense we've ever seen in Baltimore. That's just not true. There are so many behind-the-scenes things in this. And one thing you need to learn about your new head coach is he loves working side by side with his brother. There are a lot of coaches that have been coaches for John Harbaugh that became coaches for Jim. If John Harbaugh didn't sign off on saying Greg Roman is a good offensive coordinator, Jim Harbaugh would not hire him. That's number one. But then you can just look at the facts. So we're going to start with the facts, and then we'll get to know Greg Roman a little bit better. So here's what I wanted to do. Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens from 2019 to 2022. Todd Monken took over and was the OC last year. So I went to see like, oh man, was this season that they had just this offensive juggernaut powerhouse that we believe it to be? And the overall resounding answer was, it was great offense, but no. So in 2019, under Greg Roman, his first year as the OC, the offense went off. 6,521 yards. They were 14-2 and produced 64 touchdowns with 531 points. That's 33 points per game. And by the way, the defense was actually very similar to the defense in 2023. Not as good, but similar. With an extra game to be played, the 2023 offense still did not produce as much. Now, here's what the big thing about Greg Roman is. He is phenomenal at garnering a good rushing offense. In fact, when he was under the helms, the Ravens were the best rushing team in football over that span by EPA per designed rush, according to True Media. They were 15th in EPA per pass, 4th overall. That is very, very good. And the stats do back that up. In fact, if you go in here and you look at rush yards, or you could look at it as average yards per attempt, you can do any of these types of things. His 3 seasons, the only season was 2021, where they rushed for less yards than they did this year in 2023. They rushed for over 3,000 yards 2 times. Do you know how hard that is to do in the NFL? That, at the time, both of those were 16-game seasons. You need to average basically 200 yards per game in order to get that, 190. And they did it. They absolutely did it. But then came all this stuff about how Lamar Jackson's not playing well. And Lamar did win the MVP this year. And he did play very good. But by the way, guess who else Lamar won the MVP under? Greg Roman. He won the MVP under him as well. So what about passing yards? How do we do in passing yards? Because that was the whole reason for Todd Monken being in Baltimore. Well, guess what? The 17-game season that Todd Monken had wasn't the best passing season for the Ravens. When you look at both, there were actually more passing yards in 2021. The pass yards per game were not even close. Not even close. 23 yards more. Now, I'm not saying it was as efficient. They threw the ball 611 times. I understand that there are varying factors in this and injuries and things like that. I get it. But here's what I want to go ahead and say. They knew who they were getting in Greg Roman. Jim Harbaugh, worked with Greg Roman. You see here that he worked with him all the way back to him hiring Roman while at Stanford to be the associate head coach for 2 seasons. As part of the turnaround, Stanford under Harbaugh was nominated as a finalist for the Broyles Award in 2010. That same year that saw a 12-1 season and ended with a victory in the Orange Bowl. They finished the season ranked 4th in the final AP poll. That is a good team. He's a former assistant coach of the year. In 2019, when we actually saw what is one of the better offenses we've ever seen, and I believe that was Lamar's other MVP season, they set an NFL record with 3,296 rushing yards. So, how does this pair with your new coach? Your new coach, Jim Harbaugh, loves to run the football. Now, he has an immaculate quarterback in Justin Herbert. We know that. I've been going back and watching all the games this year, and the arm talent and the accuracy. I'm trying to think. One scout, when Herbert was coming out, said the guy could throw a strawberry through a battleship. I thought that was a hilarious quote because he has such good arm talent. But there's accuracy there too. He's phenomenal. But Harbaugh knows, and you've all seen it, when you have a balanced attack, when you have a good rushing attack, it only helps your quarterback. Lamar Jackson, I believe, won the MVP when his team led the league in rushing, and he was a big part of that, but only about a third. And so a good running game helps a great quarterback. No quarterback would ever say, I don't want a good running game. Never. Never. Even the best years of Peyton Manning's career, he had good running backs, right? Tom Brady, they had solid run games. Like, that is the way it goes. It is rare that you find a team that wins a championship with no running game. It's rare. So he wants to build the running game. I would argue that Greg Roman is the best coach in order to build the running game. Get used to it. Jim Harbaugh said it himself. Don't let the pewters, don't let the shade of blue fool you. All right? We are going to be a tough, hard-nosed, gritty team. And that's exactly what he's producing. And you might not be excited about this hire, or maybe you weren't, but I think hopefully after seeing this, maybe you realize you should be, because he led prolific offenses for the Ravens. It was just time for a change there. They made the change and the offense continued to be good. It's really that simple. And I think when you add the talent of Herbert to the mind of what he's doing, to the mind of what Roman is doing, you are going to have a really good match, but only time will see. Again, Jim Harbaugh is your head coach. He's an offensive-minded head coach, and somehow the defense is usually better. That's just how it goes, and it's because of the way he chooses to play offense. It's more methodical. All right, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe. We want to be your go-to spot for Chargers football. See ya.